Hello, everyone. Welcome to FREEWrite Friday. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Lynn Johnson. I'm the founder and CEO of Soaring Solo Studios, which is a company dedicated to the development and direction of solo shows of one-person plays. And I've been in this field for over 20 years. I'm a solo performer myself. I toured for 13 years with two of my solo shows, currently writing a third solo show, and have aided in the direction and development of well over 150 solo shows at this point, and have the honor of working with people all over the globe. I also do a blog for NoHo Arts called Soaring Solo. So if you'd like some tips and tools about solo theater, you can go to the NoHo Arts website and look up the Soaring Solo blog. What else can I tell you? I'm on the advisory board for the LA Women's Theater Festival. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. So I'd love to hear about you. Please say hi in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from, where you're at in your solo theater journey. Maybe you're just dabbling and curious. Maybe you've been touring for many years, or somewhere in between. But I'd love to hear from you in the chat. So please say hi. And the mission of FREEWrite Friday is just to gather together in creative community, talk through some sort of structural or writing prompt of some sort, and make some progress on your solo shows. It takes about 20 minutes, and that's really it. We don't go through sharing the work or Q&A in FREEWrite Friday. That's more reserved for my free Saturday classes or private coaching or things like that. But today we will get some writing done, and I will lead you through an interesting talking point. So let me just see if I have any more housekeeping. I think that's it. And at the end, I'll go over some exciting announcements happening in our community. So, okay. Currently, we're looking at Blake Snyder's Save the Cat model for story beats, except with its application to solo shows. So Blake was a screenwriter in Los Angeles and had just really brilliant story beats that I feel are completely applicable to the solo journey. And we just started with that last week. So today we're looking at theme stated. Last time we looked at opening image, and today we're looking at theme stated. So how do we state our themes in a solo show as we open the show? And essentially what I mean by theme, at least in the context of how Blake speaks about it, is the life lesson that the heroine, the hero, the protagonist, most likely you, if it's autobiographical, is going to be learning in the story in their solo show. And it's usually in the setup, so it's usually in the beginning, and it's often, at least again in Blake's model, a secondary character. So it's not the hero themselves saying what this theme is or what this lesson is. It's usually hinted at subtly by a secondary character. But I'm going to give you some examples in a moment that that's not always the case in a solo show, especially if we're just speaking from a traditional first-person narration. We might just state the theme ourselves. So let's give some examples. So Brooke Balmer, a beautiful client of mine, she wrote the solo show October Baby, and she states her theme outright herself at the top of the show. So it's not very subtle. But I think she gets away with that because it's self-deprecating. It's done through comedy, and she just talks about being a control freak, and that trying to plan and control the birth of her second baby is the journey we're about to go on in her show. But she takes us back through a montage of childhood, teen, young adult moments with her growing up, where she's showing us what a control freak she was at that point. So we get set up with the theme pretty clearly from her own voice right at the start of the show. And again, whether it's the protagonist, you yourself saying it, or if it's a secondary character in the solo show saying it, it is so important that the theme be stated, because we've all been to those shows where we have no idea what we're supposed to be listening for, looking for, what's the context, what's the lens we're supposed to be seeing this through. And the worst thing is when you continue then to walk out of the theater and you still don't know what the hell the point was. So we really want to start to contextualize the solo show for the audience right away, so they understand why they're looking at the specific moments that they're looking at and how they're supposed to be interpreting those things. So another example of theme stated would be Catherine Barnes. She's another award-winning solo artist in the Soaring Solo community. Her third solo show, Yes, No, Maybe So, looks at consent. And this is an example of a secondary character really getting that theme out. She has an internal voice called Sarah P. Outrage, which is her kind of social justice warrior that lives inside her head. And that character starts to talk about the idea of consent, how Catherine has violated consent and how she's had her consent violated. And so we get set up with the theme a little bit on the nose in the beginning, but it is through a secondary character. And then we go through the journey. And again, we know why we're seeing the particular slices out of her life that we're seeing and how we're supposed to interpret those things. And then this one, Mary Lee Herman, who's another beautiful artist in this community, her show, Schmaltzy and Princey, Diary of a Not So Good Daddy's Girl, is all of the things that that Blake talks about. It is subtle, it is through a secondary character, but it is clearly stated at the top of the show. So Mary Lee is at her writer's desk, she's trying to write a story, her screenplay, and the voices in her head of Miss Blame and her fiery godmother start to taunt her. And so we're starting to see in a not so on the nose way that themes of worthiness, or rather unworthiness, are coming up, and unforgiveness, things like that are starting to surface by the kind of conversation that she's having with fiery godmother and Miss Blame at the top of the show. So it's coming from secondary characters. It's subtly hinted at, but not on the nose. And we know right from the get-go this sort of theme that we're going to be tracking throughout the show. So those are a few different examples of how you can have your theme stated top of show. So I want you to now think in your own life, in your own solo show, whether you're doing a solo show about a historic character or if it's your own story. I want you to think about what is that life lesson that this character is going to be learning throughout the journey. So looking at your own life, what is a life lesson that you're already on the other side of? A life lesson that you've already been through, you've already made those transformations. Just take a moment and think about that. And then if you would, think about someone in your life, or I guess it could be an internal voice as well, that hinted at that journey, that lesson sometime early on. So for instance, if your show, like Brooke's show, is going to be about control, was there anybody before you went on that journey about learning to surrender and not be a control freak? Was there anybody in your life who called you out on that, who challenged you on that, who was hurt or suffered by your sense of control, or an inner knowing that you had an issue with control? Or any number of life lessons. Was there someone in your world or a voice within you making you aware of that particular lesson? Because you can plant that early in the show, and then we go on the journey of discovering transformation with regard to that lesson. So I'm going to set the timer for 8 minutes, and I just want you to just free write and be, this isn't about getting anything right or anything perfect. It's just expressing a particular life lesson that you feel you are on the other side of, that you have a new point of view about that life lesson, and a particular voice or character or person before you went on that journey who helped illuminate that was a journey you needed to go on. So a secondary character, whether it's an internal voice or an external voice, as well as writing about the lesson itself. So I'm going to set my timer for 8 minutes. Just let yourself write freely about that, and we'll see what we come up with. 4.5 minutes left. You got about 4.5 minutes. And just under a minute left. Okay, and please wrap up your writing. And I would just say a couple of takeaways from that. If we can isolate the lesson that we're learning on the journey of our show, that gives us a point transformation. And I think every solo show, we want the character to begin as one person and end as a different person. So whether that change is radical or if it is subtle, we don't want to begin and end in the very same place. Those are the kind of shows where you walk out and you're like, what was the point? Nothing really happened. But when there is transformation, both large and small, that's where we get pulled in and we are actually watching an arc of a character. And something else with this might not be clear to you yet. You might not know the theme of your solo show. Sometimes you might write what I call your mosaic pieces. You write a bunch of things intuitively that you want to express. And then the next step is kind of sifting through those and looking for the theme, looking for the life lesson that might be presenting itself and figuring out what are the outliers in my writing and what serves that theme. Or sometimes, like when I was writing my second show, Z, I knew themes of sexuality and spirituality were what I wanted to write about. So then I was writing pieces based on those themes. So it can work one way or the other. There's not a right order for things, but you want to be cognizant of the theme as you are finalizing your script and figuring out what stays and goes, editing and creating that story arc for your character. Okay, so I put in the chat several announcements. We have a lot of exciting things happening in the Soaring Solo community if you want to get more involved. So my free class, The Art of Creating the One-Person Play, is happening Saturday, October 15th at 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up on my website under free stuff. And in class, I give you writing prompts. You can share your writing if you want, you don't have to, or you can also bring prepared work, something that you've already written in the solo genre. And if there's time at the end of class, you can share that. I also put information for if you wanted to work with myself or Heather, who's a Soaring Solo instructor and also an award-winning solo artist. If you wanted to work with us in a more professional capacity, you can reach out to me for that at soaringsoloartist@gmail.com. And then Revealed is a virtual reading series that I created about a year ago that's been really advantageous to our community. It's basically just a forum for solo artists to read their scripts in a virtual setting, and it should feel like a work in progress. You know, we don't have technical bells and whistles, characters aren't fully realized, none of that. It's just to really hear the words out loud with a virtual audience and get feedback on the writing before committing it to stage and putting all that money, time, effort into producing and fully mounting a show. So if you want to see what Revealed is all about, I'm hosting one of them tomorrow with award-winning solo artist Azo Safo and her second solo show, Lucia, How I Learned to Love My Ancestors. And Azo is an Armenian American woman, absolutely hysterical, beautifully deep and witty. And it's just a fantastical journey through history and her ancestry, where she meets her grandmother and a whole bunch of other characters. And it's a wonderful piece of edutainment. So you learn a lot about Armenian history and devices like personification, and just multiple characters and things like that. So it would be a great one to attend. It's donation based. You can give whatever you can to attend and watch it with us and give your feedback on the script. We'd love to see you. So I believe, yeah, I put the link in the chat and you can find it on my website as well if you'd like to attend the Revealed happening tomorrow afternoon/evening, depending on what part of the country you're in. And then my next FREEWrite Friday, if you enjoyed today and you want to keep looking at script structure, is happening November 11th, Friday, November 11th, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Sign up the same way you did today. And if you want to go back and watch FREEWrite Fridays that you've missed, I have a whole slew of them on my YouTube channel. So you can go back and catch up if you'd like and see what you feel inspired to write about. And then we are in the midst of a lot of solo theater festivals that are happening now and about to happen. So if you want to educate yourself on solo shows, I would say see as much as you possibly can. There's the Binge Fringe happening at the Santa Monica Playhouse. There's my personal series called the Star Series, which Heather Dowling and I are co-producing. Solo Fest is happening January through March. The LA Women's Theater Festival is happening after that. And then the Hollywood Fringe is happening in June. So back to back, there's a ton of different opportunities to either get involved or just go and watch and learn as you educate yourself about this, this wonderful form of theater. So I'm gonna hop off now, but I hope you got something great out of it. I'll leave the chat up for a little bit so you can say hi to one another and jot down the announcements and things like that. But thank you so much for being here today, everyone.